Hey everybody, welcome to episode 38 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast. 20 minutes with some of the world's top fitness professionals. I'm your host, Anthony Renda. You can check out the show notes at stop20podcast.com. That's stop20podcast.com. Before you do that, go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, leave us a rating and a review. I say it a lot, but we get so much great feedback on the show, and then but it's the ratings and the reviews that really get it out there on iTunes and kind of expose us to so many more people. So make sure you do that. All right, so for today's episode, I have Dave Puloka on, and Dave is the head strength and conditioning coach for the Miami Dolphins. He's entering his 10th season in the NFL, 9 of them with the Dolphins. After attending Holy Cross College, where he also lettered in track, he went on to the Cincinnati Bengals training camp as an undrafted free agent in 2001. So he's been on both sides of the coin. Same team for 9 years, pretty rare sometimes in this day and age. Coach, thanks for coming on.
A pleasure to be here, Ant. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we got a lot of your you've been on the Strength Coach podcast a couple times now, and so I wanted to get you on this because I always love hearing the stories about how people got into stuff. So, Dave, what's your story?
I started getting in or really interested as a young kid. My dad's brother. I grew up in the South Pacific and on the island of Tonga, and it's a tropical island. Not much going on there. It's a developing country, still is. So back we're talking the early '80s, it really was developing. We didn't have any Joe Weider weight sets. We had paint cans filled up with concrete, with cement. And so I had an uncle, my dad's brother, was really into bodybuilding. And I remember thinking, like, he looked, like at the time I was a little kid. I mean, he looked like Lou Ferrigno to me, even though look now as I got older, he wasn't that big, but he was pretty put together, and that culture in Tonga is a very physical one. I mean, people, rugby is like king down there, and so my whole family played rugby, and, lifting weights was really, we didn't have any weights literally. So it was a manual labor type of society where you grew your own food. We had a horse. We actually had a horse that would take our carriage to the farm where we would harvest our food. We would grow everything there and bring it back. And so we were used to working with our hands, lifting heavy things. And so that was, my uncle though was really kind of the guy that I kind of looked up to, and he's passed away, unfortunately, but he was the guy that really kind of first got me thinking, like, I want to look like that guy, and so he was probably the guy that first got me into it. And then of course, when I moved back to the States, he had a few more resources here. So I remember getting the sand weights and working my way up from there. But that was really kind of I still remember the paint cans and trying to balance them on an iron bar,
Wow.
So, probably something like one of those bamboo bars, or those where we hang off like kettlebells with a band. I've never done those, but I've seen people, heard people talk about those things, so it was probably something similar to that. We didn't know what we were doing. That's all we had back then. So, and climbing coconut trees, we'll also have, pretty good workout too.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, obviously, when you're doing that stuff, are you just kind of basically saying, yeah, we're just going to press this stuff, or we're going to pull it? You're not really, there's no program, right?
There's no program. We didn't know. Well, certainly back then, I didn't know. I just kind of was trying to do what everybody else was doing. I couldn't do all the heavier weights. I was just a little kid, but I remember watching my uncle, they'd be just doing curls and bench. And literally it was on like a bench, like a wooden bench. And then they would be handing each other. We didn't even have like a stand to put it on. It was like, two guys would lift it up and you'd bench, and then they'd set it back down for you, and then you had a lighter set and you'd do your curls and your tricep extensions, and it was all mostly upper body stuff, because the lower body stuff you didn't have enough weight to lift. Plus we were already working most of the day harvesting food, digging ditches to plant the yams and all the different crops that we were growing and all that stuff. So, and like I said, it was literally like a horse-drawn carriage, out to the farm. So, I mean, it wasn't like you didn't have tons of energy when you got home at the end of the day, or early in the morning. So,
come on, man, you guys could have been doing rear foot elevated split squats.
That's true. Yeah, looking back, we definitely could have. But at the time, again, in the early '80s, I think it was probably more about upper body and looks.
Yeah,
and stuff anyway.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, who was your superhero growing up? Who kind of influenced you? And obviously, like having the two continents that you were on. So, who was that person?
Yeah, I'd have to say it was more my brother. And my brother, and I've actually, I don't know that I've ever told him that. My brother he's my half brother. He's quite a bit older than I am, but I always kind of looked up to him, and we have the same mom, and my mom would tell me stories about him, and he was really successful in his own right, and really smart in school, really good, ended up, he went to Harvard, and he was actually a rower, so more of an endurance athlete, and he ended up getting a silver medal in Seoul in 1988 in crew.
Wow.
But so he was accomplished in his own right, but more of an endurance athlete. But he was a really smart guy. And growing up, he was always someone I looked up to. He was always kind of the guy that I would think, like, what would he do in this situation? And sometimes just even the answer to that question would kind of set me right. If I was thinking like, geez, what would Richard do in this situation? Sometimes it would, especially if I was in my younger days up to probably up to no good. He was a guy that I always thought, he probably wouldn't do this in this situation, and I've actually never shared that with him, and I probably should.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
especially because like in this situation to think about, okay, what would he do, and maybe you even want to disappoint him too, right?
No, that's right. That's the biggest thing. I wouldn't want to let him down. There were times when, like, I think my mom, probably needed some help with me sometimes, and so she would try to get him to talk to me, and that was when he talked to me. It meant more than when it was coming from my mom. Like he would set me straight, and so he's still somebody that I try to lean on for advice on things, and he's just so he's somebody, and I probably should share that with him.
Yeah, man.
Because it was. I don't know that I probably would have made some of the decisions that I made if it wasn't for him.
Very cool. Well, you went to a great school. You went to Holy Cross. You've been exposed to a lot of, you were, as a young man, you were worked with Coach Boyle. You obviously you're working in the NFL. You're around a lot of great people. Who's out there now? Who's your superhero now? You kind of like look at, they're doing some great things and that you're looking up to.
In the fitness industry,
anywhere.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I have some friends in the military, and they've come back off some tours in the Middle East, and have really, their lives have changed, forever. Some of them have lost limbs, and these guys. One of the guys I actually work with, here, and just hearing some of their stories over there is just unbelievable. Kind of some of the things that they've been through, and also some of the humanitarian efforts that they don't get really as much as attention, as so much as. There was an attack or a bombing or something like that stuff gets all the press, but sometimes some of the humanitarian efforts that kind of go overlooked. That's some of the stuff that, for me, those guys are just, it kind of, when I'm having a bad day, I kind of think about what those guys have done. It's like, yeah, I'll be all right.
Yeah. Amazing. Cool. Yeah. I got a friend, his name is Tom Dearline. He was actually featured in the book Grit, but he went to West Point and he was over in Afghanistan, and he actually got, he didn't die, but he actually got hurt pretty bad and then recovered. But he has like this charity there for kids that it's amazing, like, because they see these things there, and it's not just about the fighting. So it's very cool. Good for you.
There's a lot of stuff that again, like I said, doesn't make the media, doesn't make the nightly news, but people should be made more aware of that stuff for sure.
Absolutely. What about you? Who are you trying to be a superhero to? Because obviously you got all your players, and you've kind of benefited from your brother's, watchful eye over time, and so who you trying to be a superhero too with your message.
Yeah, well, I don't have kids yet. Hopefully soon. So eventually that'll, obviously want to be a superhero dad to them. But I've a good sized staff here. I got some younger guys, some interns, and I just try to be, a good example, to those guys, and really try to help, educate them, and more than just sort of here, do this, do that. We have, we got to set up for this workout or that, and really try to get those guys to get something more out of the experience of being here as an intern, and sometimes I don't do a good job of that. I feel like, we get so caught up in the day-to-day logistics of everything, and it becomes more transactional. And so I've really been trying to take more time to, visit with those guys and have, staff meetings and have in-services. We brought Brian Mann in here a couple weeks ago, and, we've had Michael Mullen down before in the past, and really just try to make it, as educational as can be, so they can get, as much out of it as possible, and not just, be here to, wipe down benches, and which is, I think, sometimes what ends up unfortunately happening at some places.
Yeah, not cool at all.
Yeah.
Let's stay on this, like your job, because you have an interesting job, but give us a little more insight into some of the things that you have to do, because like obviously you have a staff, you have you're trying to educate them, and you have all these players, and you're dealing with a lot of different personalities. We just had you on the Strength Coach podcast talking about some of the archetypes of those personalities that Brett Bartholomew wrote about in Conscious Coaching. Talk to us a little bit more about what your job entails with the NFL.
Yeah, a lot of it is about those relationships. If they don't, they have to trust you, and it's not, it's like what they say. It's not so much what you do, it's how you do it. That matters, and that's really important. And so the relationships you build with these guys that's the most important thing. And so that might mean just being somebody that is there to listen, to something that's going on. For instance, I had a guy in there this morning telling me about, he's new to the team, and he's in an issue right now with his fiance. They're having a baby, and the baby's going to be born overseas, and she's not a citizen, and just a paperwork that's going on, and this is stressing him out, so meanwhile he's trying to learn the playbook and learn a new method of training he's not used to, and so he's struggling, and so, but after that conversation, I feel like he left feeling like, hey, like I got his back, and I'm here to help him, and don't worry about it. Like if you're, if you can't be here on Friday with the rest of the guys to come in and do extra stuff, don't feel like that I'm going to think you're slacking. I know you got issues you got to deal with, and that's important, and when guys know that you value them as people and as human beings, because they've got lives outside of here too. It's not just about football, as important as it is. We have to understand that there's, we're still dealing with humans who have human beings who have lives outside of here, and families and stuff they got to deal with. And I think if they know you really care about them, and not just about, what they do here in the weight room, or how they're going to help us win. If we talk about it a lot with our coaching staff and with our player development guys, it's like so much of what we do in the building, or we overestimate so much of what we do here. We don't realize how much what goes on outside of the building affects these guys. They're only here in the off season 4 hours a day, and so if we can get the man right outside of here, that's going to go so much further than just working on what we can work on in here, making sure his footwork is right, and he's getting the right steps, and he knows who to block, and he knows he fixes his technique on a single RDL or what have you. If we can get the man right outside of the building, whether that be spiritually or whether that be, psychologically, and we have resources to help to that end, and sometimes you guys just need someone to talk to that can relate, and if that's not me, it might be another coach on staff. I might say, hey, you know what, I know who someone that's been through exactly what you've been through. Go talk to this guy, go talk to him. And for a lot of these guys, like, I know what they've gone through as like, for instance, right now, we just had a draft. We've signed some college free agents who haven't showed up yet, but I know what those guys are going to go through, the guys, because I've been there. I've been there where I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel like I was part of a team, and it didn't, I was unhappy. I was homesick. I didn't really, I was trying to learn a new position. I mean, it was stressful, and there wasn't a lot of people there. There wasn't people on the team. There were players. There weren't a lot of other players who were willing to kind of, reach out. It was kind of, it didn't feel like I was part of a team, so I know what these guys, and I see that. I can see it in their eyes when they walk in the room sometimes. So sometimes I'll be like, hey, I know what you're going through. Just, keep working, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job. Let's try to work on one little thing at a time. Let's not get overwhelmed with all the details. Because I remember, and Coach Gase has been great about that. When we come in and do our rookie minicamp next weekend, it's actually more of an orientation. We're not going to go and kill them, put them through the ringer, and get 3 hamstring pulls, which is usually what happens. We take them through an orientation, literally, where it's like, and we'll invite their parents in too. The weekend following, and really just, okay, let's focus on, getting to know the player, them to getting to know us and our culture here, the way we do things. And really just, focusing on, sometimes we get so caught up because it's like Mike talks about the curse of knowledge, right? We just assume everybody knows what we know. I remember being in a team meeting when I was, like it was yesterday in Cincinnati, sitting there amongst, I had like Takeo Spikes sitting in front of me, and I'm just like, I can't even get over that, let alone the fact that, the head coach is then talking about like what we're going to do at practice that day. I'm like, my mind's not even there.
Yeah.
I'm so distracted by just, holy crap, like I can't even believe I'm here right now, sitting in this room amongst, these guys that I had idolized, that I'm one of them now. So and then I'm like expected to remember kind of like, okay, what do I do on, on this particular defense? What's the play call? All this stuff. So, it's good that the way we do things here is we just kind of, we ease them into a little bit more.
Take the stress out of it. Yeah.
Take the stress out of it a little bit, because there's enough stress. There's enough stress just being here under the limelight and the media and all that stuff. Once we get to to Sundays, I mean, obviously the selection process will work itself out between now and then, and we'll get the right guys for our team. But, if we're throwing, the whole playbook at a guy and he's got to learn, everything about the way we train and I mean, some of these guys, you're just happy if they can find the facility here from the hotel, So
yeah, good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's one of those things where basically people have a big misconception about and we could spend here for another hour talking about players and that type of thing. So, but it's definitely taking that stress out, making it easy, and understanding that they're just average guys at the end of the day too. So good stuff. All right, now it's time for the Stop and Give Me 5 segment. 5 rapid-fire questions and answers. You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. What's the thing you miss most about playing football?
Oh, just the competition. I mean, like just the going against each other in practice, and then bringing it to the games, and just putting your hand in the dirt and just one-on-one. Like for me, it was one-on-one pass rush. Just beating the guy in front of me, get into the quarterback. I mean, that just the competition of it that's what I miss the most.
Awesome. I know people don't like to admit this, but one guy you wouldn't want to go up against in football.
Oh, geez, Richie Incognito for me.
Okay.
Richie, I had Richie here, in Miami, and then now he's with Buffalo. And, he's worked with Brett, for years, and he's just, he's a bear. I mean, he's just a strong, explosive, mean, dirty. I don't want to say dirty, but he's he'll let you know that you're in for a long day.
Yeah.
And and he's I like Richie a lot. We bust each other's chops a lot, and he's just a hell of a player. Yeah. So yeah, I would not want to go against him.
Very cool. All right. You could pick any trainer to train you, past or present. Who's it going to be?
Well, every time Brett Bartholomew comes to visit, he always has like this action-packed day planned, and it's always a good one. So I mean, I always enjoy our sessions. So I'd have to say Brett.
Very cool. Dinner with someone from the past. Who is it?
Probably my grandfathers, both of them. They died before I was before I got very, I was a little kid. So, but both of them were, from what I understand from people, were really, really good men. And so it would be nice to get to know them, now that I'm older.
Very cool. Craziest fans in the NFL, and by that I also mean because obviously you're just the strength coach. You don't have the uniform on, but you do have a uniform, so you're wearing some stuff. So are there fans that kind of give you guys a hard time too?
Oh yeah, Buffalo, no question. Buffalo is. I mean, you take on the bus ride in there from the hotel, you're getting bottles, eggs thrown at you. You got old women who are giving you the finger. I mean, it's your grandmothers are out there tailgating, drinking. I mean, it's games in Buffalo are nuts, especially when you go up there around Christmas. I remember one year there was looked like what was 1,000 Santa Clauses, all just hammered, throwing stuff at the bus and talking trash and yelling and screaming and carrying on. I mean, it was, Buffalo is always an interesting game.
One of my friends just went there this past year, and he said it was absolutely insane. There must have been 20 fights in the parking lot. And that was amongst each other, so crazy.
Oh yeah, easily. Oh yeah, no, that's par for the course up there.
Yeah, damn. Dude, what's a project you're working on? Anything that's getting you kind of excited?
Yeah, we've got a pair of force decks, force plates, and so we've been playing around on that a little bit, and really cool stuff. I mean, some of that stuff is, I'm not smart enough to figure out all of that stuff, but all the squiggly lines and everything. But it's pretty promising. Some of that stuff is pretty neat. We can just simplify it a little bit. It's when we first started using Catapult, it was kind of overwhelming with all the data that it would shoot at you. But some of that stuff we've been doing with the force decks right now, just playing around, kind of looks pretty cool. So, I'm excited about that right now.
Very cool. Lots of technology out there that, if you can just kind of use one or two and get really into it and start to learn about it, it could definitely help you. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dave, letter to your younger self. What's that advice you're going to give young Dave?
Just be yourself, don't try to impress anybody. Just be true to yourself. You
feel like you did you feel like you were not when you were kind of at that, maybe in the college years and afterwards?
No, even younger. No, I mean younger, I guess. I think moving to Boston from the South Pacific was a hard adjustment. It was basically this was the late 80s time, was not very diverse. I was the only brown skinned kid in school, and it was just a bunch of Irish and Italians basically. And, it was hard to fit in, obviously. And at that age, third grade, 8, 9 years old, whatever I was, it's hard to fit in, and so that stuff that affects you as you get older. So looking back, I would just, that's what my advice to myself would be, to just, hey, don't worry about what other people think of you. Just be true to yourself, and what the difference between right and wrong is. And although I probably learned quite a bit of lessons, I was lucky probably that, things turned out the way they did, because there were sometimes I was kind of a knucklehead. So
yeah. Well, most of us were. So, but anyway, thanks so much for coming on. It's great to kind of get that other side of you. We've had you on the Strength Coach podcast a couple times, so it's without all the X's and O's, it's kind of good to get an inside look. So thanks so much for coming on.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 38 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast. Thanks again to Dave Puloka. Make sure to check out all the links to all his stuff at stop20podcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave us a review and a rating. My name's Anthony Rana. Thanks so much for stopping by.